Okay. So we have to nurture ourselves physically and spiritually. So I've been doing Be'i and Pesachim for the last few years. I'm going to focus on the first parak. If you want to enjoy and eat, maybe grab a chair, you'll enjoy. Here we go. So the Gemara wonders why the Mishnah starts with the first word of or. It seems to be a little bit on the derogatory side, right? Rather, it should be Laila. Why or? And so the Gemara tells us something fascinating, that the Tana doesn't want to open the Masechta with the word night, which has a negative connotation. Opening words should be refined. The words that we say should be refined, and as a result, the Rambam tells us, Patach devarecha yaya, always open your words with something that shines. And that's why it's important. So we're going to discuss a little bit. So the Gemara brings down some cases of how we're so careful with that. It says, a person should never say a bad word or a coarse language from his mouth, and that's very important. And we notice this as well when it comes to Mantara. It says in the Torah, we waste words, and we don't say tameh, we say tahor instead. So we do whatever we can to avoid using bad language. Again, Tanya Rabbi Shmuel, the Gemara goes on, a person, when he talks and he converses with his friend, should always use clean language. When it comes to Zav, when it comes to a man, it says Merkav, but when it comes to a woman, we say Moshav, because we don't want to have any connotations of the woman when she's riding and she's spreading her legs, because that's not an appropriate thing. Again, the Gemara goes on to give some various examples of this. It says, there were two students who were sitting before Rav. Chad Amar, one of them said, the study of Torah makes us tired like the other thing. The other thing is the pig. And the second student said, it makes us tired like a goat. Rav did not speak to the first one because he referred to the pig. He was so careful on language, he wouldn't talk to someone that was inappropriate in his language. Again, there were two students who were sitting before Hillel. One of them was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and the other one said the two students were sitting before Rabbi. One of them said like this. One of them asked the question, why must one harvest grapes with kalim that are in state of tahara, and yet doesn't have to harvest olives with kalim in state of tahara? Another one asked, similarly, why must harvest grapes with kalim that are in a state of tahara? And the other one asked the same question, but harvest olives in a state of tumah. And it says here, he said like this, Rabbi said, I'm certain about the first student that he's going to be a big Morda Asra. And the second one who used that tiny little difference of harvesting olives betuma, yeah, it's good? Okay. He didn't talk to him. You see what? They were so careful in their language. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, now, one last case. 3 Kohanim were talking about the amount of bread that they got in Lechem Apanim. One said, they gave me such a small piece the size of a bean. Another Cohen said, they gave me such a piece the size of an olive that reached me, small piece. Another one said, the third Cohen said, a piece the size of a lizard's tail. They investigated the lineage of the third Cohen, and they found some disqualifying flaw in him. He wasn't an actual Cohen. You see what's going on here, Rabbi Sai? We have to be so careful with our language. The Torah forbids us to understand the incredible reach and power of a spoken word. Right from the psukim in Bereshit, it illustrates Hashem created all of creation with 10 psukim. The first lesson the Torah teaches us is that words create worlds. Words create worlds. Our own words continue doing that same thing. So I want to focus a little bit. My second career, I was a physician, first career. Second year, I'm dealing with Shalom Bayis in a big way. And I love to always learn with couples. The 10 Commandments of Marriage by Rabbi Miller was my Rebbe for 40 years. And so listen to what he says about language. In the 10 Commandments, number 4, he says, never say the word, I want a get. Ever. Even if you're joking. That word, he writes, is apikorsis. It should never be mentioned by the husband or the wife. Even if it's not seriously said, you want to just say as a joke, oh, if you don't like me, get me. No, it doesn't work that way. That's out of the realm of possibility, he says. You know why? Because once the seed is planted, even though years could pass, the seed takes root and it grows. It becomes possible in the mind of the other party, and it's something to be considered. It may never happen because you use that word now. It has entered the possibility. It's an unpardonable sin to say that word. Even couples who are battling and hitting each other physically, and she hits him on the head with a pocketbook, and he kicks her back, it's better than saying the word, I'm going to divorce you, get you. People can scrape, he writes, through their lives and remain married, and they're better off. But that word saying, I'm going to divorce you, get, breaks the magic that was created when you said under the chuppah, re'as mekudeshet li. Because it was intended forever, and now you made it conditional. So we don't use that language. Another word is, another thing that he said, which is in the commandments of marriage, never take mean words seriously. We speak about not using the language. But what happens if the language is used on you? I'm going to tell you a beautiful story that took place about 42 years ago. I remember this story. So first of all, he opens up by saying there was a Talmud Chacham in the Gemara whose second wife constantly made fun of him in front of his friends. He was a Maggid Shir in Yeshiva, in the Gemara. Great man. His first wife passed away. His son from the first wife saw what's going on here. The second wife, burnt his food, didn't do his laundry, embarrassed him in front of his students in public, and so he comes up to his father, the son from the first wife. I don't get it. How can you be teaching Shalom Bayis to the boys in yeshiva? Look how your wife treats you. Doesn't make any sense. She's constantly irritating you, constantly countermanding your orders. So listen to what he said. The father says to his son from the first wife, yes, my son, because no matter what she says, it passes away quickly. Pay attention to that. He didn't take her mean words seriously. And Rav Miller goes on to say, don't take mean words seriously. Sometimes a person is in a bad mood. They got a parking ticket. They lost some money in the stock market. Right, Shlomi? It's been rough the last few days. So anyway, give it a little more time. Wait a couple of minutes. It may just go away. You have to be very careful with that. Right? It's not worth it. So now, he tells a story that took place. I remember this very vividly. About 40. Imagine you're walking in the street and a sheged says a word to you. F you, Jew, whatever it is, right? Are you going to stop and argue with him? Who knows what's going to happen? There was a fine young man from Yeshiva University on Tu B'Shvat. He used to run Avos Uvanim for NCSY in a certain shul in Brooklyn. He had these 10-year-old boys. He told them, if you come to the program every Shabbos for 2 months, I'm taking you to a New York Knicks basketball matinee game. We have to meet at the shul. We're going to walk from the shul to what was then the D train, now it's the B, the Q. We'll catch the train to Madison Square Garden. Okay, he was the leader of a group of little boys, and he had it kept quiet. Nothing would have happened. He'd be alive today. Here's what happened. On the way, remember the old days? There were Italians hanging out in the park, and he used to like to rough it up with the Jews. I remember those days very vividly. So they started making fun of him because he's wearing a kippah. And he started making fun of others. So he pulls out, in the old days we used to have these nunchucks. And he pulls out nunchucks, I can do battle with you. That's all they needed to see. So what did they do? They go into the head guy of this Italian group, goes to his car, opens up the trunk, pulls out a metal baseball bat. In 1 minute, takes the hammer, right? Takes the bat, pounds him on the head, finished. Done. The boy was killed like that. 19-year-old Jewish kid. The case was brought in front of a Gentile judge in court in Queens, and the judge said, we're going to reduce it from homicide to criminal negligence, and postpone the trial for 1.5 years. He wanted to cool things off. After all, the Gentile judge is not going to sentence the Gentile boy to jail. So they come to court 1.5 years later, and guess what happens? He reduces it. He goes, the courtroom is no place for revenge. Instead of that, we're going to go to 5-year probation, which means for 5 years our friend comes into police precinct once a quarter, signs his name, says hi Mike to the sergeant behind the desk, and goes home. Now, had that young Jewish boy listened to the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, it says, Tuvia deshama v'adish chalufe bishte meya. Fortunate is the one who is an insult, right, and pays no attention. 100 evils will pass you by. Keep your mouth shut. Don't answer. In marriage, how important is that principle? Constantly someone is saying foolish and something stupid to each other, and you didn't hear it. And you'll continue the following scenario. Akiva, are you crazy? You're 40 years old and you never dreamed of, never learned the word of Torah in your life. What on earth makes you think you can pick it up now? You don't even have the skills of a second grader. Who are we talking about? Rachel and Akiva. Imagine she had told him that. Had that been the attitude of Rabbi Akiva's wife, the Jewish people would have been missing one of the most important links in the chain of the oral Torah forever. However, his wife believed in him. As a result, he was able to throw himself into his mission and access the gifts that Hashem had given him that had remained hidden inside him. So Rabbi said, we see what a word could do. Words can build and words can destroy. Thank you so much for coming today. Enjoy the food. If there's leftover, I'll have to tell the crowd out inside. Thank you.